Do you need a ride? Just 5 words. That's all that it took to dismantle 20 years of life. A small mistake to hitchhike about 400 miles to meet a friend. Just 5 little words that would change the course of her life and kick off a nightmare of the likes that normal people can't even fathom. The words are uttered, she accepts, and the van door slides shut. And that's it. Every once in a while, you come across cases that stand out. Not because they're exaggerated, because what actually happened is that extreme or just that creepy. Hey guys, what's up? My name's Mr. Bruce, and thanks for tuning in today. Today's story is very strange, and it almost belongs in a category of its own. This is the story of the girl in the box. If this sounds like your type of thing, then I want you to go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, because we got a whole lot more stories just like this. So, let's get into it. Colleen Stan was a 20-year-old woman with dreams of eventually going to college and becoming an accountant. She was young, trusting, and enveloped in the golden careless optimism of youth. And in December of 1976, she decided to hitchhike from her hometown in Oregon to Northern California to surprise a childhood friend on their birthday. It was the 1970s and on the beautiful West Coast, so hitchhiking wasn't seen as something risky back then. It was, well, what people did. But it was the last time that Colleen was ever seen, and in fact it would be Colleen herself that would get the surprise of a lifetime when the picturesque ideal American dream would turn into a twisted nightmare. As she hiked along Interstate 5 near Red Bluff, California, sticking out her thumb in the hopes of getting a ride, a 1969 Dodge Sportsman van with painted blue and white stripes pulled over in front of her. As she approached the driver's side window, she saw a young couple. They were friendly enough, asking her where she was going and if she needed a ride. Because she saw a wife with a baby inside of the blue van, she felt safe enough to accept the ride. The young couple that picked Colleen up was Cameron and James Hooker. Cameron was a 23-year-old blue-collar guy, skilled with his hands and wore a friendly smile. His wife Janice, well, she was the same age as Colleen. She was a homemaker and occasionally worked part-time for an electronics company. It's unknown the specifics of how far they were planning to take her on the trip and where they themselves were headed. Colleen, as friendly as she was, she told them about her hitchhiking trip across 2 states and how she planned to surprise her friend, who didn't know she was coming. And she talked a little bit about where she was from, in Eugene, Oregon. About 20 minutes into the drive, Cameron pulled off the highway under the pretense of wanting to investigate some nearby caves. On the surface, it seemed innocent enough, but something about it concerned Colleen. Janice, noticing this, reassured her that they wouldn't be long and that they had been there before. This is when the illusion begins to shatter, because the caves didn't exist. A manufactured point of misdirection, designed to strip her of her bearings and serve strictly as an operational tactic to isolate her. But Colleen didn't know any of this. She was just going by her instincts. The moment the van left the familiar hum of Interstate 5 and slipped into a more secluded area, the illusion of safety evaporated. The dread started to well up inside of Colleen as they pulled off the busy interstate into the secluded spots with tall trees and nobody around. They got out of the car and began to hike up to the caves. But after a few steps, Cameron said, "Hang on guys, I forgot something over in the car. Why don't you guys go ahead and I'll catch up to you," as he spun around to head back in the direction of the car. What Cameron would get out of the car was a simple tool, an extremely sharp knife. As he trotted back up to the girls coming in from behind them, he wrapped his arm around Colleen's waist. He put the knife up to her throat so that she knew that he meant business. And what Cameron told her was, "Don't scream," and he ordered her back towards the van from where she had just come from. He slid open the van door and he ordered her in. And then Cameron pulled something out of the back seat that was very peculiar. It was a custom-built crude enclosure, a box, sized to fit over a human head, with hinges that opened up at the bottom so that they could be locked back around the neck, so it couldn't be removed. The inside was padded with soundproof foam board. It was engineered specifically to act as a total sensory deprivation device, built tight enough to completely block out the light and muffle the outside sound, as well as screaming that would come out of anyone's mouth that put it on. It also severely restricted airflow. He slipped the box over her head and locked it, plunging her into sudden darkness and disorientation. The funny thing about the box that makes it stand out, besides its bizarre nature, is the fact that the box must have been built before the kidnapping, so it was definitely something that Cameron had been planning, and almost certainly he had done it before. When they arrived back at the Hooker's small rented home in Red Bluff, California, Cameron carried out the next phase of the plan he'd spent months preparing. Colleen was taken into the basement where she was stripped, chained up, and forced into a long, narrow wooden box, built just large enough for her body. It looked more like a coffin than a bed. Colleen would end up spending as much as 23 hours a day cramped inside the box. Other times it would be for days straight, unable to fully stretch out and unable to see daylight, never knowing when someone would return. Cameron's goal wasn't simply to hold Colleen hostage. He wanted complete ownership over another human being. Every aspect of her life was controlled. When she was actually allowed outside the box, she was ordered to perform household chores, like cleaning the house, cooking meals, and satisfying Cameron's increasing disturbing demands. If she resisted, she was threatened with torture or death. To make sure she never attempted to escape, Cameron invented an elaborate organization he called the Company. According to him, if she tried to run, this powerful underground organization would hunt her down and kill both her and her family. It was entirely fictional, of course, but it served as sort of a psychological box to keep Colleen in line, and she believed it. Cameron's wife, Janice, wasn't just a bystander. Although she sometimes appeared sympathetic, she also helped maintain Cameron's control over their captive. Together, they created an environment where Colleen rarely knew who she could trust. Investigators would later discover that this wasn't Cameron's first victim either. Years before abducting Colleen, he kidnapped another young woman, Marie Elizabeth Spinaki. Once he was caught, Cameron would admit to killing this woman, but he later recanted. This is widely regarded as Cameron's first victim, and he kept a photo of her right next to the coffin box, perhaps as a form of psychological intimidation towards Colleen. As the years passed, Cameron slowly relaxed the physical constraints that he put on Colleen, convinced that his psychological conditioning had worked, and perhaps that was true. He allowed her to work as a hotel maid, attend church, and even visit her family, under strict instructions to never reveal the truth. She was so convinced that the company existed and that if she ever spoke out, they would kill her family. The Hookers' living situation also created problems that they hadn't anticipated. They were renting their home, and routine visits from the landlord, including inspections of the furnace and other maintenance, forced Cameron to repeatedly move Colleen from her secret living quarters beneath the house. For nearly 7 years, Colleen lived this unimaginable double life. To outsiders, she appeared to be nothing more than a family friend helping around the house. In reality, she was still a prisoner who returned to her coffin-like box whenever Cameron decided. In 1983, everything finally began to unravel. Cameron wanted to take Colleen as his second wife, which shifted the household dynamic for Janice. Racked with guilt and increasingly afraid of her husband, Janice confessed the truth to a pastor. After being urged to do the right thing by the pastor, she secretly told Colleen that the company didn't exist and it was all a lie. She then helped facilitate her departure by driving her to a bus station and paying for a bus ticket to send her back home. Oddly enough, Colleen called Cameron at a bus station to let him know that she was leaving, and she didn't even go to the police right away. In fact, she never went to the police. It would be Cameron's wife, Janice, that would report him for the crime 3 months later. telling investigators the unbelievable story that she had kept buried for nearly 7 years. Her account sounded so bizarre that some investigators struggled to even believe it. But when they searched Cameron's property, they found exactly what she had described. The specialty wooden head box, the giant confinement box that had held Colleen captive for years. Janice agreed to testify against Cameron in exchange for immunity from prosecution. And with her testimony, along with the physical evidence and with Colleen's account, it completely destroyed Cameron's defense. In 1985, he was convicted on multiple charges, including kidnapping, essaying, and he was sentenced to 104 years in prison, where he remains today. In regards to the prior victim, Mary Elizabeth Spinacki, she was just a teenager, 17 years old when she vanished in 1976, months before Colleen ever stepped foot on Interstate 5. Her body was never recovered, and the case was ruled only a disappearance, so Cameron was never charged with that crime. The story of Colleen Stan remains one of the most disturbing kidnapping cases ever documented, not only because she was held for over 7 years, but because Cameron Hooker proved that sometimes the strongest prison isn't made of steel bars. It's built in someone's mind. That's going to do it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this story because I enjoyed making it. If you did actually get this far and you like the story, then I want you to go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because that's going to help us out a whole lot. And also take a look at our catalog of other videos because I really think there's probably quite a few videos in there that you would be interested in. And with that, I guess that's really all that I got. I will catch you on the next video. See ya.